We asked you, the fans, the listeners, to come up with trade ideas or players you'd like targeted. The number one player mentioned was Sean Murphy. So on today's show, we're going to talk about Sean Murphy. We're going to talk about the catching position. We're going to get deep on that. And then we're going to take the trades you sent us. And since we are doing this live, we will be taking yours as the show goes. Make sure to check it out on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today, I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. And then, if you don't know me, I am Jeff Ellis, the host of Locked On Guardians, as I have been since the inception of this very show. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scott 24/7. And before that, I wrote for many a Cleveland sports blog. Justin, tell them about your background.
I am Justin Ladd. I've been the co-host with you, Jeff, for a little over a month now, a little under a month. It's hard to keep track of some of these days now. Currently at Guardians Baseball Insider and the managing editor. Previously, I'm still freelancing with the News Herald and the Morning Journal, and previously with all kinds of different Cleveland baseball blogs. Burning River Baseball, it's pronounced Lajoie, Fansided. Yeah, lots of different places.
And I know if there's one or two people out there, yes, this is a Buckeye Express mug. If you went to Ohio State, that might be something. I've had someone comment on that before. Yes, that is indeed a 20-year-old mug. People are eagle-eyed on the show. We're going to get into Sean Murphy, but first, let's talk about the news of the day. Do you want to start with Silver Slugger or Fielding Bible?
Let's do Silver Slugger. That's going to be probably the quickest thing. So probably no surprise to anybody that José Ramírez was nominated for a Silver Slugger at third base and Andrés Giménez at second base. At third base, though, Jose will be competing with, Rafael Devers and some other guys who had a good season. And at second base, Giménez is competing with a bunch of guys, but mainly Jose Altuve. So I don't expect either of those guys to win a Silver Slugger, but I guess it's good that they're on the list.
No, definitely. It's nice to get rewarded, get acknowledgement. And then in terms of the Fielding Bible, for those who don't know, I believe it's based off a defensive run saved. So it is a statistical award. It's not the Gold Glove, but it is a defensive award based off of, specifically, I want to say the statistic of defensive runs saved. So when you're looking at that, Cleveland had two winners. Why don't you take it away? Or was it three? No, it was two winners? Yes.
Just the two, yeah. The two winners were Stephen Kwan in left field and Myles Straw in center field. The Fielding Bible is, it's mostly just defensive run saved. Yeah, it's picked by Sports Info Solutions, run by John Doohan, who is one of the statistical analysis guys. But if anything, I would probably argue that the Fielding Bible, which is different than the Gold Glove, is a little less biased.
And there's only one. So like if you win
not one per league.
It's not American League. And if you're like, oh, why didn't Giménez? Well, it's because Brendan Rodgers was a little bit ridiculous. I think he had the highest DRS in baseball this year, he played second base. Someone will talk about probably next week. Our number 2 most asked about player, Christian Walker, by the way, won it at first base.
Yep.
In terms of some things, Jorge Mateo. I'm happy for that guy. It's been a long, strange trip, like his 4th team, and he was really good defensively. So it's nice to see him up here on lists. Now we got kind of the news out of the way. And again, I just want to point out, Stephen Kwan winning was after 2 straight years of Tyler O'Neill. Myles Straw winning the award. It's his first time. Both well earned, and it says that they are the best center fielder and left fielder by their defensive metric in all of baseball defensively. Having said that, let's talk Sean Murphy. A year ago, I wanted to trade for Sean Murphy, and people were a little lukewarm because he hadn't been spectacular. He had been a solid, consistent player. Do you count this as a breakout year for him? He did take a bit of a step forward, but I mean, he's still been a very good player this whole time. It's just now he looks like one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, he's always been very consistent. This is definitely his best full. No, not even his best. I guess it is his best full season. Yeah, because he hasn't. This is his first
debut.
Yeah, this is his first actually full season. He played 148 games this year, and that's the most he's played in his career. And it was a 122 weighted runs created plus, which was, I think, inside of like the top 70 in baseball overall, and like 6th among catchers with like 250 plate appearances. So,
and again, 148 at bats or games for a catcher. Just wanted to phrase that. It's impressive. 18 home runs, walked 9% of the time. Strikeout rate, he dropped it this year to a little over 20. On top of being, one of the top defenders in the game, he was a legitimate offensive force.
Yeah. Speaking of fielding Bible only had Sean Murphy at 1 run, 1 defensive run saved, but I think outs above average favored him a little bit more. But more than that, I'm obviously defensively we're more concerned with things like framing, where he was 6th in all of baseball according to catcher rating runs on Baseball Savant, and pop time in all of baseball 189 and 5th overall. And we've discussed why that's important before, right? We talked about next season how the pickoff rule changes in baseball, where pitchers can only step off the mound or throw over twice per at bat. So imagine the leadoff hitter gets on base and the second hitter is up. The pitcher can only step off or throw over twice while that number 2 hitter is up. If he gets the number 2 hitter out and the number 3 hitter comes up, it resets the 2. If the pitcher tries to step off or throw over a third time, he doesn't get the runner at first out. The runner at first is automatically awarded second base. So in essence, the pitcher has 2 chances to try to keep the runner close. Once he's thrown over twice or stepped off twice, the runner knows that, there's nothing else he can do, and he has to be sure. So pop time is going to matter a ton more next season, just because pitchers are going to have a disadvantage holding runners on, and that's going to be a disadvantage to catchers, which we saw was a problem for Cleveland pitchers this year, especially in the bullpen. Austin Hedges, who, was a solid defender for the most part, but he was not as good with his pop time this year. He was down to 195, and we talked before about how that's only a 0.6 second difference, but that 0.6 second is going to mean everything next year. And Murphy's 27. He'll be 28. He'll be 28 all next year. I'm sorry. He just turned 28. So, and he's under club control until 2025. So he's got 3 more seasons. So his free agent year will be 31. So you trade for him now. He's definitely in his prime. This is it. You're getting him right at the thick of everything.
If you just want to talk about like catchers who qualified, just catchers who qualified, who had enough plate appearances to even qualify, there were 4 in baseball.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty elite group, but it's interesting because you go through like Alejandro Kirk, 129 runs created plus, Will Smith, 127, JT Realmuto, 128, Sean Murphy, 122. All of those guys kind of in that similar range. I feel like there are people who, if I said they could get Realmuto, would jump at it. And when I say Murphy, they're still kind of hesitant. I think, again, you're getting a rare talent at that position, and they got nothing. So if you get anything at all out of that position, it's such a huge upgrade for your team. I mean, they got almost nothing from that entire position last year offensively.
Yeah, you're going from a D- at the position offensively to an A+. Like,
I'd say an F, not even a D-. I mean, that's an F. It was historically bad.
Yeah, so you're literally going from the bottom of the scale in terms of catchers offensively to the top of the scale, and you're actually not losing anything defensively with Sean Murphy.
Probably gaining.
Right, so you're literally going from if you want to say Hedges' defense is like not bad, you could say overall like maybe he gave you a D this year because the offense was so bad, but yeah, Murphy is literally an A in terms of everything. You are upgrading significantly. It's a major swing for the Guardians. And while you're watching this, please If you're watching this live, please feel free to comment. We have about, I think, 7 trade proposals for Sean Murphy that people gave us. We're going to talk about all of them today. We're going to give you, thumbs up, thumbs down if we think Oakland would do it, if we think Cleveland would do it, and just kind of mull them over. But I do think Sean Murphy is, we've talked before, Jeff, that you've even mentioned that Cleveland has had interest in Sean Murphy. They called on him during the All-Star, the trade deadline in 2022. So there's interest. There's history dealing with Oakland. And I think the question most people are going to ask is, what does that mean for Bo Naylor specifically? Like that's the direct impact right now.
And I think before we get into the Bo Naylor stuff, we should probably take the first break, and then we can come back. We'll discuss how Bo works, how they could work together. The funny thing with Murphy before we go to break is they could have drafted him and said they went with Logan Ice. Like that was exactly what happened in that draft class. I'm not going to say that I had Murphy higher, but I had Murphy higher on my board. Murphy broke his hamate bone his junior year. It meant limited opportunities to see him. I saw him in the pouring rain with a Oakland scout, funnily enough. And guess what? Who agreed with the take at the time, and we're happy to pounce. But we're going to take our first break. We're going to come back, talk about how Bo still works with Murphy, can make this team better, how everything can work out, and then we're going to get into your trades on today's Locked On Guardians.
And our first sponsor today is betonline.net, your number one source for betting football and the start of basketball season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. As always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport you can imagine. The fastest and easiest way to check in all your games and events, including Major League Baseball, the MMA, boxing, golf, whatever you're into. It's all right there. Head to the website and use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. I did take a quick look quick, Jeff, at BetOnline, and looks like the Astros are heavily favored in Game 1, plus 149 for the Phillies, and I think minus 162 for the Astros is what I saw. So heavily favored in Game 1 for the Astros, which finally starts Friday night, as most people probably listen to this. Anybody's not listening live. I was kind of surprised by that, actually.
Yeah, it's certainly the delay felt long. So without too much further ado, and before I can cough on Mike, why don't you start leading us off with how Naylor and Murphy can work together?
Yeah, it's going to take multiple ways to make this work. First of all, I think it's not a foregone conclusion that Bo Naylor is going to start next season in the majors, right? I'm pretty sure we think that there's a chance he needs more time in AAA. So no guarantees they're going to hand it to him. It'll be very unusual for them to do that. However, long term, people think you have to decide, is it Murphy, is it Naylor? And I think there's a way for them both to coexist because of the attrition rate of catchers. The fact that they are opposite-handed works. Batting, they don't have to platoon, but they can use Naylor at DH because he's a good enough hitter. You can use Murphy at DH because he's a good enough hitter. Maybe one of these guys learns first base as well.
Naylor came up as was a third baseman in high school, right?
Yeah, he played infield. Yeah, he was converted to catcher, so he is plenty versatile, can do it. The real challenge, I think, is for Cleveland. We saw this in the postseason with Terry Francona, very afraid to not have a reserve catcher on the bench. Doesn't want to have Tyler Freeman as the emergency catcher. He wants to have that reserve catcher on the bench. So that kind of means like someone like David Fry has to work into it, right? Like you need that if they're going to have if at some point Murphy and Naylor are going to work on the same 26-man roster, you need someone like David Fry who can play third, who can play first, who can play against lefties, who can pinch hit for somebody if he needs to, especially a left-hander on a left-hander. And he can be your third catcher. Not a guy you want to catch regularly, but he can, and he has the experience. So that's the challenge is Cleveland is carrying three catchers, and Fry right now to me is the only guy that makes the most sense to do that. So at-bats wise, playing time wise, there's no reason Murphy and Naylor can't coexist. If you do like a 4-2, 3-4 kind of schedule with them, but as long as Terry Francona is the manager, you need that third pacifier as the catcher.
Yeah, and like I think in a very natural way, David Fry makes so much sense because Bo Naylor being a young player, they're very hesitant to let young lefties face left-handed pitching. So it could be a situation where Naylor is the bench guy when there's lefty on the mound. Murphy would be out there. You're going to have Murphy out there every day no matter what, but Naylor might be more of a platoon player. And then you have Fry as the emergency catcher who he can do it in a pinch. They had him playing in the AFL for a reason. And then maybe he is even just a platoon as well. So then you kind of have Naylor and Fry as your platoon in a way. And then not saying that Fry catches, but Murphy plays catcher, and then Fry could be a first baseman, or Fry could be a third baseman, Jose Rest. Like it gives them that flexibility, and because Naylor and Fry are on opposite sides of the platoon, you can kind of have them as a unit up there. And then, as you said, it gives them that flexibility. So let's say they decide to have Murphy a catcher and Naylor at first base one day, they can, because you still have Fry back there. Well, again, he's not the throwing out numbers aren't great. But in terms of a backup catcher, he's totally usable, especially as a third string guy.
Yeah, just so you have that safety net. And that's, look, when Terry Francona is no longer managing, maybe that's not an issue. I don't know how other teams view that, but for sure in Cleveland, we know it's an issue with them.
Just the way it naturally sets up. I mean, he murdered left-handed pitching this year. This team could use a left-handed murderer, as bad as that sounds. I don't know. I don't know that. I don't have any data on if most murderers are righties or lefties. You can drop that in the chat here if you know that. But
I guess lefties.
Weirdly, I think it as well. Even though that's not the majority, but having his ability to do that, I think Fry is a very useful guy no matter what. And I think especially if you end up with both these guys on your roster, it just makes your lineup so much better. Like adding both of them has the potential to really add some pop up and down that lineup.
I think what you do if you make this work, I think Naylor gets another half season in Columbus this year. You start the year with Murphy, and again, he's under control for 23, 24, and 25. You bring up Naylor, whenever he's ready next season. You don't need to rush him this way. Probably still some things he can work on. You let that timeline be a little more organic, and you can hang on to both of them. You're not wasting Naylor's best years, being a backup or being a platoon partner with Sean Murphy. You are just kind of transitioning from Murphy as he hits free agency. You just go straight to Naylor once you've kind of made that move. So,
and then I think we'd be remiss if we don't at least mention Brian Lavastida. He's a bit of a forgotten man. But I think we all should have learned a very important lesson last year when Bo Naylor was hurt and he had that down year. Many of us, myself included, first and foremost, wrote him off. And I dropped Naylor out of my top 10. And I wasn't sure. Because it was a it was a worse year than Lavastida had this year. Naylor was struggling to hit above the Mendoza line a year ago. So I think, you also have to keep Lavastida just in the back of your mind is okay, he had a bad year where he was also hurt for part of it. And not completely just write him off. They believed in him enough to have him up there for a time.
For a couple of days, yeah. I am going to go ahead and strain my shoulder and reach around and pat myself in the back. I did not drop Bo Naylor out of my top 10.
I think you and MLB.com, I think, were the only ones.
Yeah,
and MLB just didn't do it because he was a first-round pick. But, it was ugly.
It was a mulligan. It was purely a mulligan. It was just betting on the fact that he was young for the level, the missed 2020 season, the rigors of catching and the bloodlines and knowing the makeup of the player. I think that's the only reason I stuck with him. And it could have worked out poorly. It could have been bad this year. And I said, okay, well, I gave him a mulligan. The same reason I would give Brian Lavastida one too, because he had a strange year. And he's versatile too. He was an infielder in college too. So another guy who brings some versatility to the table. So yeah, don't count him out. They're both in the 40. I don't think you need either one of them in the trade to get Sean Murphy either. Would it be weird having Murphy, Naylor, Lavastida, and Fry all on the same 40-man roster? Yes, that would be weird. I do think if they trade for Murphy, then Lavastida is likely to be on the outs, because especially, or maybe Fry, I don't know, one of the two I don't think can coexist. So what do you say we
because here's the thing, I just want to point out before we get to the trades, it's like, I know I've seen so many people mention Naylor as part of a return for Murphy, but it's like, okay, they got Langoliers in the Olsen deal. He's already in the big leagues. Tyler Soderstrom is probably more of a first baseman or outfielder, but he's a catcher. And then they spent their first round pick on Daniel Susac this past year.
Right.
Oakland might be the organization that has no interest in catching, but I think it is a perfect time to take that next break and then come back and get into these trades. So join us as we are going to evaluate what you, the fans, have sent us. And again, drop some things in the comments. I see we have quite a few people watching. So this is your chance to get your thoughts on the show. We'll be back in a moment on Locked On Guardians.
After you make Locked On Guardians your first listen, make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. Check out Locked On Sports for the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available wherever you can get podcasts as well as YouTube.
And Justin was on that relatively recently. You can go find that episode where he talks about some of the Guardians' success this past year. So I think I had 7 trades pulled up, and I think it's probably the same ones you have. So I gotta go to my likes so I can just kind of stare at them. Do you want to start? And then I'll click off the ones I have, and we'll see if there's anything where maybe we see if there's any that we somehow missed between us.
Yeah, so our first one is from, I'm going to go with Derek Deese, Tribe Guy 97 on Twitter. His first proposal was George Valera, Tyler Freeman, Logan Allen, and Owen Miller. And he also wants to know if they can get AJ Puck in the deal, which I think is a good question because I think it makes sense to go for both. So, but let's just go at this as a purely Sean Murphy deal. So we have George Valera, Tyler Freeman, Logan Allen, and Owen Miller. Just you want to give a real quick thumbs up, thumbs down? Do you want to analyze this? What do you want to do?
I mean, we can start with the thumbs up, thumbs down, then analyze, I think. So should we just do our we'll do it visually, and then we can, I guess, say it as well. But ready? Same time. 1, 2, 3. We both have thumbs down. I don't think that's going to work. No, it's not enough. The secondary pieces are all guys with massive hits this year. I mean, maybe not massive, but like Logan Allen.
I think it's close.
AAA. Ty Freeman. You've been firmly on the fact that Ty Freeman is an Oakland Athletic type, but like none of these guys are. There's not a good enough secondary piece. Like you pretty much have to get rid of Owen Miller and then add a better secondary piece to me.
Yeah, here's the thing about that. Like everyone wants to get rid of Owen Miller. Oakland isn't interested in a bench player who's not even a good bench player.
The one thought could be Chad Pinder, like that they're losing him in free agency. But yeah, I know someone says I think everyone wishes in chat, but I think it's not. We both agree it's not enough.
I think everybody wishes Owen Miller was Chad Pinder. Chad Pinder wasn't good in 2022, but Chad Pinder has had good years. If Owen Miller was Chad Pinder at any point in his career, we wouldn't be having this discussion because Chad Pinder has been a better player throughout his career. So Owen Miller doesn't that doesn't swing the trade any which way. So you can just get Owen Miller.
If you look at his other one, which is taking out Valera and Allen and putting in Williams and Brennan, that might actually get it closer, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you go Gavin Williams, Will Brennan, Tyler Freeman, and Logan Allen, I would think that might get it.
Well, no, that probably gets it. But he's saying Logan Allen out. So it'd be those guys plus Owen Miller. But again, I don't think it gets you over because I think it is going to be 4 good pieces. And if it's not like, because the interesting thing with the Athletics is I have to really think about who fits in the Guardian system. But they took some guys like when they traded Chris Bassett that were not like huge prospects, but were good performers. But they were starters like Rob Olier, right? Wasn't that maybe that's
and then they moved. Yeah, no, you're right, Rob Olier.
So it's like is it maybe their 4th piece ends up being someone like an Andrew Misiasic or someone like that who's not a huge prospect? Adam. But it's like I got the last name right. The tricky part, right? Like I'm hearing. I'm just gonna take a victory lap for getting the last name right. with my pronunciation skills. But yeah, I wonder if it would almost be something a little bit off like that, where they're looking at just pure production, because they seem to go for a few of those guys. They also at the trade deadline definitely went for guys who maybe weren't as high on prospect trade sheets, but it's only because those prospect trade sheets were out of date. Like those listings were not updated yet, or those guys would have been higher.
Yeah. It gets you, I think that trade, like you said, gets you close. The second one anyway.
Yeah.
I think if you had Miller, I'm not sorry, if you had Allen and Williams and Brennan and Freeman, it works possibly.
Yeah.
I think it would take two pitchers, and let's remember, I think Oakland's very similar to Cleveland when they look at the stuff. They're not looking for like a 60 whatever future value prospect. They're going to take the best overall package, regardless of position. The position's not going to matter. So maybe they would be interested in Bo Naylor, but I think they're going to take the best package. They're not going to take the best fit. They're going to take the best overall package, and I think they're going to go for quantitative over qualitative. So, you want to go on to the second one?
Okay, so over here I have from Clay Cash Dollar, Angel Martinez, Dion, Hunter Gaddis, Brian Lavastida.
Well, give me 1 second.
Okay.
I would say we're going to do it at the same time. Yeah, thumbs up and thumbs down.
Here we go.
Yeah, 3, 2,
1. Yeah, I think this one.
That's a thumbs down.
Yeah, this one's not even close, in my opinion.
Angel Martinez is not a headliner. I'm sorry. No, he's a good player. I like him as a prospect. He is a secondary piece.
Yeah. And then the
Will Dion and Hunter Gaddis, those are not pitchers that are getting you anything.
And all the other guys in that are like the fourth piece in a deal. So that's a secondary piece, right, and then 3/4. It just doesn't get you there. But we thank you for your response.
Right. Let's go to Trotani. Okay. He has Tyler Freeman, Logan Allen, Nolan Jones, and Hunter Gaddis. 3, 2, 1. That is a thumbs down as well. Tyler Freeman's not a headliner. Nolan Jones, I don't believe, is a headliner. And the other two guys are both. I'm still a big Logan Allen guy. So
yeah, I mean, he's a top 10 prospect, but like he is a second or third piece in this deal.
I was going to say he's definitely better than a fourth piece, but yeah, he's definitely not.
I feel like Allen is maybe, if he's a second, and Freeman is an okay third, then your final piece has to be something special. But I think so far the closest we have is Derek. Should I go next? I'll do the deal that would break your heart. So this is
Don't do it to me. Don't do
Greg
it.
Ron at GD
Greg.
He has Tana, Freeman, Nolan Jones, and Tanner Bybee. I'm not sure if that's enough or if you need a better headliner. I think you'll find out on the show there is no better value. There is no better headliner maybe than Tanner Bybee. Like we're having legit discussions between us if Bybee is the top prospect in this system. I think. I mean, am I wrong? That's something we've both kind of been like, maybe we got to consider this.
I mean, he's at least in the conversation. I think you can't decide who it is before you actually make the decision. I'm not saying he is. I still love Daniel Espino, except for the fact that he was hurt all last year. That's the only thing that gives me pause. If Espino was healthy in 2022, I don't think this is a discussion. That's the only thing I'll say. But I think this trade, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I would do it.
I just want to look at it one more time. I guess, man, I got too many tabs open.
Bybee's your headliner. Nolan Jones, I think, is a decent second piece. I think he's the guy who would do well in that ballpark.
I just don't know if Jones is. I think I go thumbs down. And the reason I go thumbs down is like Bybee as a centerpiece makes sense. Jones is because of the health issues and then like 2 years of like interrupted play. I don't feel like the value as a secondary piece is quite. And he's a limited player defensively. I feel like he's more of a tertiary piece. I feel like Freeman's more of a tertiary piece, and Tana's value is low. So I feel like it needs something. To me, I give it a thumbs down just because I feel like it needs a better secondary piece.
I could agree with that. Who would you put in there, like, instead of who are you taking out and who are you swapping for? Like, I think we agree Bybee works as number one.
Yeah, he, like anyone and especially like when you look at this as a team that went for Ken Waldichuk. They're looking at current value and stuff. I feel like if you do Angel Martinez, or if that clears it easy. I feel like if you maybe consider someone like, I could, it's like Gabby might clear it for them as well. Something in that range. I see someone talking about the baseball trade value site. Neither of us like it, so we don't use it as a reference. That's a fun site to be.
It's fun, just do
but
stuff.
It's fun to mess around with, but there's a lot of issues internally with it, and some guys who get weird valuations. Okay, so do you want to pull the next one? I can pull the next one.
This one, there's a couple I can go to. This is not really a trade, but someone said I'd be open to Valera, Arias, Williams, and Noel and Jones if needed. I think you absolutely need. Look, they're not going to get Sean Murphy without one of Bybee, Williams or Valera. Those four, absolutely, one of them has to, one of those four has to be in the deal. There's no question about that. I think Arias would be a good second piece for Oakland. I don't know. Is he good enough to be a second piece?
He's. I think he's. Yeah, I mean, he, especially with some of the stuff we saw in the postseason, and there's the physical tools, and he's the headliner in the Clevenger deal. I think he kind of works. He works better than Nolan Jones, who is first base, left field, maybe right field, who's had some health issues and hasn't we're a while. I mean, 2019 was the last fully healthy, start to finish strong year.
See, I think Nolan Jones reminds me a lot of Brandon Moss in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I know it's a very different regime and a different time in baseball from when Brandon Moss was a good player for Oakland, but I think there's some precedence there. So, but yeah, I think just in general, I don't know how many people are going to like John Kenzie Noel. I don't feel like he's going to give you a ton in a trade just because I think nobody knows what he's going to be.
Yeah.
He's just very interesting and doesn't make sense for Cleveland to trade him because they don't even know what they have yet.
I wonder, we had someone say, what happens if you had Valera? I think maybe he means the Angel Martinez deal, the one that didn't have any headliners. So if you have Valera, Martinez, Dion,
Giménez,
and Lavastida.
It needs another pitcher. Those two pitchers aren't going to make it work.
Weirdly, I think Oakland will like Dion. They've gone for kind of those undersized, funky guys.
I do too, but I think you probably need to add somebody in there like a Cody Morris or something. I think you need to add a better pitcher.
Too high in that. I think I could even see something like, if you take out Gaddis, considering, can we put in Tanner Burns?
Tanner Burns feels like an Oakland guy too, but he is so down on value right now.
I could see Curry too. There are some places that are really high on him. Like Fangraphs had him as a top 10 prospect before the year began, and he had a good year. I could see Curry having more value than Gaddis. I think that's a close deal. I think Valera Martinez gets you very close, and then I think the secondary pieces could be a bit lesser. So it's like that might make sense. What about from Andy Dubois? Man, Andy, we talk so much, and now I can't get your name right. DB Sice, Valera, Freeman, Savale, and Gaddis. I just, should we? Yeah, I think Savale doesn't have any value.
I agree.
For that organization.
Do you think Freeman could be enough for a secondary? I think Freeman could be. I
think he's a third piece. And I think to another
in
team,
that deal, he's not good enough in this deal to be number two.
No, and I think Savale is the two in this one, and has value. Just not to this team, not to a team that is clearly tearing it down, and
right,
and is entering arbitration and costs money. They don't want a guy who's going to make $2 million coming back in this deal.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't think Gaddis is fine too. I think Gaddis could be a fourth piece.
I think it's Eli Morgan part two. It's been my my statement on him.
Yeah, more velocity though, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the last one. This is, unless you have another one, this is the last one I have.
Okay.
Patrick Collins. This will be a quick one. Tyler Freeman, Zach Plesac, Will Benson, and Gabby Arias. That's a quick thumbs down for me. No. That's not even close.
Yeah, that doesn't have a 1 or a 2 in it. They don't want money. Will Benson, I said it when he got called up. I'll say it again. I mean, he is potentially a candidate to be taken off the 40-man. Like, they treated him as just a depth outfielder. He didn't really get much of a look or a chance. We talked about it off air, but it's like kind of sad that they let go of Alex Call to do that, because if you haven't been following, Alex Call actually had a really good year with the Nationals when he went over there. Like, he would have been helpful to this team to have had in place as a platoon type of player situation with what they had in the postseason. So that was a shame. Maybe if Benson got a better chance, that'd be the case. But yeah, that's a deal that is, again, they don't want Plesac. They don't want the money he makes. There's no number 1 in that deal. There's no number 2 in that deal.
Arias can be number 2.
Yeah, Arias is number 2. I'm sorry. Freeman's a 3. It just, I don't know. It's like when I look at the Guardians, I think Valera makes sense. But I feel like if I am crafting this trade, let me throw the trade I would do. Okay. Just look at the list. I think I would offer them Valera, Freeman, Tana, and I'm just kind of debating who's that third, the second piece. It's like, I guess Logan Allen. So I guess that's close to other people's. Or if not Tana, maybe it's like Valera, Allen. I just totally had. This is what happens when you're sick. Your brain melts away. It's something like Valera, Allen, Curry, and then another bat type player, either like Atena or depending, like, can you get across that finish line, I guess, without including an Angel Martinez, or is it Martinez, Valera, Allen, and then someone like Curry?
Yeah, I mean, you could give him, if it's Valera. I think you could still give them Freeman and Martinez, because Freeman's ready now and Martinez is like ready in a year. They can figure that out.
So I think in that case, it'd be Valera, Martinez, Freeman, and Curry would be the offer.
Yeah, I'm not giving up any pitchers for Murphy personally. Like, I think if you go with Valera, you can avoid going with Espino and Williams and Pipey. So I would say Valera for sure. Probably Logan Allen, but I'm tempted to say, I don't know, you think Cody Morris is probably too high for that, and he's probably too old and too has injury prone, so maybe they're not into that as much. So,
and I could also see instead of Curry, like I said, that fourth piece, like I said, there's something about Will Dion. They like smaller guys. They've been collecting them for years.
So Valera, we agree on Valera. I would say Allen, Valera, Allen, Freeman, and I would go with like, I don't know. Do you think Angel Martinez is still needed in that, or are we kind of close without that? We have to ask our buddy over at Locked On A's.
I feel like, it's either, if we're going with Freeman and Valera, then if you go Allen
and Allen,
you go maybe you go Tana, or you go kind of or Gabby in that situation. You kind of go that next tier. And I think if you instead go Martinez, then instead of going Allen, you go someone like Dion, or you go to kind of a Curry or a Gaddis, or maybe a Cantillo if they want to roll the dice there. The other guy to actually, I don't know, with them kind of swinging for the fences, is maybe it's like Valera and Freeman. We both feel are guys that make sense. Mm-hmm. Instead of Martinez, if it's like Valera, Allen, Freeman, they might want someone like Genoa, the shortstop, who's a long way out, who could be like a
Yeah, they could be looking pretty far down the line, especially with this team right now. I agree. I think maybe
with the Guardians trade Churio, the junior one. It's like you're just asking. I mean, he's so far away, but you're also asking for heartbreak.
Right. Yeah, I would not do that if I were Cleveland. Not right now. I would definitely give him. I like Angel Janelle, but yeah, I think you can probably part with him right now, considering what else you have in your farm system, especially with the next class coming behind him. So. If you get that deep, the AJ Puck fact we didn't talk about today, but I like AJ Puck a ton. I think he makes a lot of sense. We can discuss him on a future podcast as well. But I think if Cleveland were to enter trade talks with Sean Murphy again with the A's, I think it makes sense to package those two, because Oakland is really the last team that's really tearing down right now that has pieces left. Nobody else really has. Everybody else is kind of building back towards the middle and towards the top, and Milwaukee's in a weird spot. I would love to talk about Milwaukee with you.
Yeah,
sometime in this offseason we can get to, because they've done some interesting things. But
and I think
appreciate everybody who sent in. Oh, we have one more from Richard too. If you want to do this real quick, Jeff.
I mean, that's kind of similar to what I said. Blair Allen could work. Yeah,
I think you need one more. I think you need one more.
That's why I wonder if, like, instead of Tana, it's like Genoa. Like, it's someone interesting who could be better, but who is a long way down the line. Because the other problem, too, it's like we talk about every team has kind of experiences crunches, and looking at that deal, it's like Valera and Freeman you have to add. So you're Cleveland is helping their crunch to a degree, but it would be affecting them. See, I don't think you're not going to trade Valera and Espino. Like, nobody trades two guys like that anymore. The secondary piece.
I realize Murphy has 3 years of control, but that's probably why Cleveland hasn't done it yet, because Oakland he's right. Oakland probably did ask for that, and Cleveland was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. If it continues to happen, they'll say no. They'll move on to a different option, or it just won't happen. So I definitely agree with Oakland asking, but.
No, but it's that thing. Like, I mean, if you even go and you look at the Matt Olson deal from a year ago, like Shane Langoliers was the centerpiece. Ryan Cusick is, I don't even think he was a top 100 prospect. Joey Estes was a down the line guy, and Christian Bache was a failed prospect. Let's be honest. At the time of the trade, he was already a prospect who had failed multiple times at the big leagues.
You don't think Bache was the centerpiece?
No, not with his complete inability to hit in the bigs. Like, he had shown that. You were hoping for Myles Straw from Bache. Like, that's your best outcome with what we had seen in his. I know it was limited time in the majors, but it had been so bad that I think it was the hope was Myles Straw. So I didn't think he was. Langoliers was a centerpiece. He was the top 50-ish prospect. He's your Valera. Logan Allen is the Ryan Cusick, and then I think. Freeman is your Pache, and Estes is your fourth piece. I think that's kind of how it lines up.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was fun. Very good thought experiment. I think there's still a chance that Cleveland could reach back out to Oakland. We said we can make it work, or Cleveland can make it work if they go a certain route.
And I saw more than one person say they thought the deal was in place. So I'd love, I'm very curious about that.
Interesting. Well, we are going to, what do we say? Next one's going to be Christian Walker. So get your Christian Walker trade proposals into us, again, on YouTube, on Twitter, Locked On Guardians. Jeff, myself, we'll do that next week, and we'll talk a little about some other free agents as well. Anything else?
And I know people get gun shy when we talk about the value, but it's definitely one of those things that even the deals we said yes to, I'm sure every Oakland fan would say no to, because everyone thinks they're going to get the sun, the moon, and the stars. And we also have to understand, to get something, you got to give something. So it's
got to hurt. It has to hurt. Yeah. And that's why I gave the thumbs up to the Bidey one, because I was like, yeah, that hurts. So definitely, It definitely would work. I did see one comment on Twitter from someone saying, Sean Murphy is setting the bar low. We are all snake bitten by the Dolans. That's really underrating Sean Murphy. I implore you to go look at all Sean Murphy's resume, because if you think Sean Murphy is not
a difference maker
going from Salisbury steak to filet mignon, you are very mistaken.
Yeah. And, I know we're already super long, but it's like, when you look at overall value, when you look at what you're going to have to give up, I know there are going to be people like, man, they were focused on Valera. This outfield is no matter how you feel about Myles Straw, this organization loves him and is set with him. That is your center fielder for the next 5 years. That's not changing. Stephen Kwan's your left fielder for the next 5 years. That's not changing. And if you go to midseason, I had a tweet with near identical stat lines at a near identical age. And the comp was Clint Frazier for George Valera. Like, he is not a sure thing by any means. There are some concerns there that I have heard. It's not to degrade him as a prospect. I still have him as a top 5 prospect in this system, but I also think sometimes we need to cool the prospect hype when I hear people say he's the best outfield prospect since Manny Ramirez, because that's not true. Because I hate to break it to you, but Bradley Zimmer was higher rated at points than Valera has been. Like, the hype gets a little out of control. So I want to temper it. I think he's a great prospect. He could be the best outfielder since Manny Ramirez, but I think we've already seen the best outfielder since Manny Ramirez, and his name is Stephen Kwan. So
there you go.
Final thought there. Anything you want to put on our super long trade edition before we wrap this one up?
No, let's wrap this one up. That was fun. Thanks to everybody who sent that stuff in. That was great to have your input for this. That made it more fun. We hope everybody kind of enjoyed the process, and I hope we can continue to do these. I'd like to tackle no more than 1 or 2 players per episode as we continue to do this. So we got lots more to do. We got lots more on the wish list.
So again, thank you for watching. Remember to go subscribe on YouTube. Last time I checked, we're at 810. Less than 200 subscribers. 200. Help us out with that. And as we say on every show, go Guardians, go. And thank you to everyone who commented today.